Good afternoon and welcome to Healthy Habits Eat Well webinar series taking place every Thursday from March 10th through next week, April 28th from 12 to 12:50. We're so excited to have you all with us today and so pleased with the turnout. We're expecting over 200 attendees. I'm Julie Chavdi, Health and Wellbeing Program Manager with the USC WorkWell Center. And it's my pleasure to spend the next 50 minutes with all of you. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. As always, we invite you to stand if you're able to and stretch anytime during today's presentation. So feel free to get up, move around, shake it out. Your audio is muted to minimize any background noise until we open it up for Q&A. But we encourage you to use the chat function to make comments, ask questions, and also the Q&A function. And our presenters will assist in responding either during the presentation or at the very end. This webinar is being recorded and will be archived for sharing on the Healthy Habits Eat Well page that you used to register for the series. So stemming from the success of last year's Healthy Habits, where we had over 500 registered for each session, we are celebrating National Nutrition Month in March and April, collaborating with campus partners for this spinoff called Healthy Habits Eat Well. We all know that access and availability of healthy food and beverages plays an important role in our overall health and well-being. The link between diet and health has been well documented in scientific literature, and there is continuously growing evidence showing that food and beverage environments conducive to healthy dietary patterns can help individuals achieve and maintain good health and reduce the risk of chronic diseases throughout life. So the purpose of this series is to provide you with tips, strategies, and support for ways to improve your health and quality of life, and do this through nutrition and healthy eating habits. So here's a look at our 8-week series sponsored by the WorkWell Center in partnership with registered dietitians and nutrition experts from the Clinical Nutrition at Keck Medicine, Keck School of Medicine, USC Athletics, USC Hospitality, the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology, USC Student Health, and USC Transplant Institute, Keck Medicine of USC. Here's a look at all of our 8 sessions, and today's will be on eating sustainably in honor of Earth Week. We hope you'll join our other sessions as well. And at the end of today, we will have a raffle prize for 2, and at the end of the 8-week series, we'll be raffling off more prizes for those who attend all 8 sessions. So let's get started. Today's topic, eating sustainably. Today's agenda will include information on what is eating sustainably and why is it important, tips to eat sustainably. We'll have an opportunity for Q&A, a preview of the next session, and then the raffle. So with that, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. Our first speaker is Michelle Katz, registered dietitian and certified health education specialist with the USC Student Health, Keck Medicine of USC. And we also have Patrice Barber, registered dietitian, USC Student Health, Keck Medicine of USC. And with that, I'll turn it over to Michelle and Patrice.
All right, well, thank you so much. And it's a privilege to be here. And on behalf of both of us, we just say thank you so much for introducing us and inviting us to participate in this wonderful program for Earth Week. So this is a quote that I wanted to start with by Mary Purdy, a registered dietitian. We can no longer separate the health of the environment with the health of humans. It is all interconnected. So every action that we do really affects our communities, our environment. And I find that empowering because that means that every small step I take, literally step I take, can really make change. So this is a visual representation of our carbon footprint. And you can see that below is the United States. So that big green circle in the heel is where we are. And our carbon footprint is basically the total amount of greenhouse gases that are being emitted into our atmosphere. And they're generated by the use and or misuse of our CO2 emissions from cars, from factories, household products, agricultural practice, deforestation in our food system. And the reason why Los Angeles is so prevalent with our, with our smog and our pollution is, if you think about our topography, so we have a lot of mountains. Mountains affect the restriction of airflow. We also have our population is very large, as well as our, the amount of cars and the amount of people using these kind of things. We're focusing on food production, our food systems. 30% of global greenhouse gases comes from our food production, and 70% of fresh water use comes from food production. And globally, the average carbon footprint of an individual is about, the average global footprint is about 4 tons, but the average person in the United States is about 16 tons, and it's one of the highest in the world. So we need to reduce that dramatically, because what's happening is that if we continue, the temperature is rising, we're having drastic weather changes, and that's affecting our oceans are getting warmer, and that affects biodiversity, affects our health and our well-being. And so our goal is to reduce our emissions so that by 2050, we can reduce our emissions to about 2 tons per person. I mean, 2 tons collectively. So we're really trying to give you some information about reducing our carbon footprint. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a poll. And we want to know, when you're purchasing food, what matters to you? What is the most important thing that you think about when you're buying food? Because all of these things are really, really important, in terms of how we buy our food. Do I bring lunch to work? If I don't, do I go run out and get it? Do I go buy a kava bowl, or do I go to, Panda Express, So yeah, we'll just, so, this is really important. Do I shop at a farmer's market? Do I go to specialty markets, such as culturally relevant markets? Do I only shop at organic? Is taste my biggest factor? Convenience. Do I have a car? Can I drive to the grocery store and bring my packages home? All right.
Great. The answers are just about done. We'll go ahead and show the results.
Okay. All right. So yeah. All right. Affordability, 32%. Yeah. I'm feeling it just like you guys. Next slide, please. With COVID, COVID really has done a number on our food security, resources, supply chains. So thank you all for participating in that survey. Really, really important. And we're going to talk more about this. So dietary guidelines. So the dietary guidelines are provided by the USDA to tell us what is the best way to eat to be healthy individuals. Okay. Nutrition and food is not separate from sustainability. Sustainability is a huge part of our eating habits. And the things that are important are accessibility. How accessible is the grocery store? Where is the grocery store? Do I live near a grocery store, or do I live in communities where I have to go to convenience stores? Is it affordable? Can I afford what I'm buying? Do I have to travel farther to get the foods that are appropriate for my culture? And availability, same thing, is enough being produced? And that's when we get into agriculture. 40% of our global landscape is agro systems. And so agriculture is a huge part of food sustainability. Land's being converted to grow food, that changes the biodiversity of our species and what's available on our planet, as well as how soil is used. Think about, population growth. The projection right now is there'll be 9.7 billion people on the planet by 2050. And that's a 24% increase from 2020. Right now, if every single individual on the planet wanted to follow these guidelines, we couldn't, because we can't grow enough food. So how is that possible? And weather, right? Weather, extreme weathers, the tornadoes and droughts and flooding, devastating crops and affecting farmers and affecting people's livelihoods and the production of food and how much food is being thrown out because of it. So, big questions, and, we need to figure out what we're going to do. So the failure of our food system. So when I talk about a food system, I'm talking about anywhere from, production, processing, transportation, packaging, consuming, disposal. Huge economic enterprise that affects our health, affects the environment, and it's a social effect, and it's driven by trade, costs, and prices and demands. 33% of our global emissions comes from our food system. So that's all of these different areas of our food system, from production, with the agriculture and the chemicals and the crops and the animals, all the way to transporting. How far did your food come? Does it come on a plane? Does it come in a car? Does it come from your backyard? 33% of food produced in the US ends up in landfills. That's huge. Because what happens is when food goes to landfills and it's in an anaerobic environment, which means there's no oxygen, it starts to release methane gas. Methane gas is a huge contributor to global gas, to our greenhouse gases. And that's a real problem. Why is our food being wasted? Are we not eating enough? Are we eating too much? Is it not being shared to communities that need food? Which goes to food insecurity. 1 in 6 Americans are food insecure, and food insecure means not having enough food to be able to have an active lifestyle. And Patrice and I have been here for a long time, and we see food insecurity all the time with students and students of all ages. So food insecurity is around the corner, it's everywhere. We just might not be aware of it, but it's everywhere. And in Los Angeles County, 1 in 5 people are food insecure. And, with rising costs of food right now and lack of supply chain, more people. And with food insecurity also comes housing insecurity, So I've had students who are choosing between, buying food or living in their car, Fortunately now, CalFresh is available to college students, but prior to the pandemic, it wasn't. So there was a lot of students that weren't even able to get, social service assistance. And that is also goes on to families and staff and people that work at the university. So it's everywhere. And then we also get into environmental justice, about our food, where is our food being located? Are people living near, highways or plants, factories, financial resources. Food insecurity affects our financial resources, right? If I don't have the money to buy food, do I have to make choices? Is it easier to go to McDonald's and feed my family so that they're satisfied and satiated? Or can I go to a farmer's market? Access. Are there farmers markets in my area? Are there grocery stores with fresh produce? I don't have to shop at a farmer's market, but is the produce, wilting and brown? Do I have car transportation to get to the grocery store? Time. Who's got time, right? I can't cook. I don't have time to make meals. I don't have time. I need quick ideas. I need ways to feed my family. I've got kids. I've got a partner. I've got a job. I've got a life. How do I do this? And then knowledge, do I have the knowledge? Do I know what to be putting on my table with the money that I have? How can I best support my family's health needs? And as you see in this, and I want to, reiterate that this is from 2020. I imagine this has gone up in the last 2 years, but food insecurity in households with children, dramatic rise. And so, kids need food to grow and eat and to develop and to be their best selves. And this is a real problem. Next slide, please. Another thing that I talked about earlier about food waste, 931 million tons of food waste worldwide. That's a lot. And 30 to 40% of food in America is wasted. And it comes 15 to 20% of that comes from consumers, you and me. Go to a restaurant, don't finish our meal. When you send it back, when you're like half of it's done or you don't finish that bread bowl gets thrown out. They can't reuse it. 25% of our fresh water use is being wasted on produce that's never eaten. So if you think about the growers on the farm, when the plants get wilted or they get infestated with, pests and weather changes, right? I can't use this produce. I can't sell this. I got to toss it. I got to throw it out. Misuse of human resources. So we're talking about water. We're talking about land. We're talking about workers. We're talking about farmers who invest financial resources and then they can't, the produce is destroyed. We're also talking about humans, us, buying food and then it sits in the fridge, we don't use it, goes into the landfill. Food is the single largest component of solid waste in landfills. And as I said earlier, when food is put into a landfill with no oxygen, it releases methane gas, which adds to our carbon footprint. And that's where we get into the global emissions. which we need to reduce, because if we keep going the way we're going, you know, our temperatures are going to get rise, and we're not going to be in a good place. And that's not what we want. Next slide, please. So what's the solution? We got to work as a community. Remember what I said, every little step we take is an opportunity to source reduction, recycling. Recycling isn't working as well because we used to sell our recycling to China and Indonesia, and they're not buying it anymore. So now it's become an expense where it was a profit opportunity. Now we still have to process those materials, but we can't sell them anymore. So they've become a liability. We need to create infrastructure. We need to find ways to increase sustainable ways to our food chains and growing food. There's things like regenerative agriculture, which is about protecting the land and making sure the land and the soil is healthy to yield crops on a consistent basis. Also about water resiliency and nutrient density. Slowing climate change, shopping locally, buying food that's local so that it doesn't travel on a plane or in a car, fair and accessible, letting all people have equal rights to food so that they can live fulfilling and happy lives. And using our waste, not wasting food, putting food in the fridge, carrying it with us, maybe ordering a little less, whatever we got to do to improve where we are. Yeah. So I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague.
Thanks, Michelle. See, I am lucky. I get to be inspired by Michelle every day. And thank you, Julie, for this opportunity. And thank you, everybody, for coming today. So we are talking about your personal, more sustainable food style. As consumers, we have power. We have power in all of these areas: production, process, distribution, access, consumption, water, and waste recovery. We show our power in what we buy, in what we choose to support, in the example that we give our kids, in the way that we live day in and day out. So today we have a bunch of ideas to share, many ideas, and hopefully there will be a couple of them there that will help you with the steps that Michelle mentioned. Small steps, personal steps, then if we all take them, then well, we're all in better shape. So the right steps for you, the right steps for your household. Once again, I want to invite you to add to the chat with each topic. If there is something more that you've thought of, if there is a resource that you like, please feel free to share with everybody. Okay, so first topic here is a more mindful approach to grocery shopping. This is one of the many things that we can do to reduce waste. Okay. How will you use everything you buy? It's something that you ask yourself while you're grocery shopping. We have all overshopped, right? Everything looks so good. Everything looks so nice, so appetizing. We come home with way more food than we can use. And sometimes we don't use it all, unfortunately. The simple tools of planning a menu before you go to the grocery store, of making a list, of giving yourself some flexibility, of course, but mostly sticking with that list can really help to decrease in the amount of food that you waste on a day-to-day basis in your home. You use a menu, you use a list, you also save money, and you save those extra trips to the grocery store to get the things that you were supposed to buy to begin with sometimes. Okay, when will you use everything that you buy? This is something that I work with students with day in and day out. I use the banana example. For example, you buy 2 freckled bananas, 2 yellow-green bananas, 2 dark green bananas, and that way, as they ripen, you've always got bananas to eat. You can expand that a little bit. You're in the grocery store, you look down into your shopping cart, and you think, okay, there are some very perishable fruit and vegetables. I will eat those in the next few days. And then there are some that last a couple days. And then there's those carrots and the citrus. Those are going to sit in the refrigerator for a long time till I get to them. And then when I run out of everything, I want to make sure I've got some frozen vegetables, some frozen fruit, some dried fruit, just in case I can't get back to the grocery store. So it's, how will you use everything that you're purchasing? Who is that for in your home? Is this a kid's snack? Is this a lunch food? And when will you use that so that everything gets used before it spoils? Also, are my fruit and vegetables in season? We're going to focus on that in just a moment. But I want to give you an example from real life from just a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you noticed, but in March, one of our big groceries chains that our students shop at had peaches, and she bought some and she brought them back to her apartment, and they were never good to eat. So we traced that back a little bit. We talked about how those peaches came from far away, how they were picked well before they were ripe, how they had a very long transit before they even got to the grocery store, how they never really had a chance to ripen properly and to be enjoyed. You know, unfortunately, that food went to waste, and she was really concerned about how to not do that anymore. Here is a little tip. Keep your older food in the front of the refrigerator, your newer food in the back, because, you know, we know what happens to those little things that get trapped in the sides and the back. Those are the things that tend to go to waste because we don't eat them quick enough. At my house, we have buffet night. And actually, it's kind of a family favorite. We bring out all of those containers that have little bits of everything, and we kind of make our plate from our leftovers. And sometimes it's an adventure, and it can be kind of a lot of fun. If you bring leftovers from a restaurant or you have leftovers on your table, try to get those back into the refrigerator as quickly after your meal as possible. Getting food into the refrigerator quickly is a very good way of helping it last a little bit longer. And this right here, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, that is a magical temperature for your refrigerator. It's the temperature where most of the food will stay stable the longest. Next slide, please. Start with high quality produce. This is the stuff that you're going to bring home and be very eager to eat. Let's see. I have several guides here for you. This one is a guide to where in your area you can find a farmer's market and what day. It helps us to get the locally grown produce, the produce that's in season, which is a very interesting question for people who relocate to Southern California and especially our international students. So here's another guide. This is basically an encyclopedia from the LA Times. It's when everything that is grown in Southern California is ready to pick, when it is in season. So it gives you the growing season. It gives you how to choose a fruit or vegetable that is just ripe and ready to eat, what to look for, how to store that food once you bring it home, extra tips for when you bring it home, and an enormous, absolutely enormous recipe collection for produce from Southern California. This is another one down here, the Olive Wood Gardens in San Diego. They have, you know, the recipes and a lot of detailed information, but what is so special on their website is a one-page sheet of when everything is in season, every fruit and vegetable and nut you can think of, and when it's in season, all in one place, ready to look at. So two very nice ways to guarantee that you are buying local produce. One is the farmer's market, and the other is community-supported agriculture. That means that you are buying directly from a farmer. You subscribe for basically a produce box that you would receive weekly, every other week, maybe once a month. And it is fresh, it is local, and it is directly from that farmer. And that means that there is a stable income for that farmer. And it also means that without a market and without a store, the price that the farmer is charging you is generally very, very reasonable. So that food is local, that food has traveled far less than many other foods, and therefore has a smaller footprint. Next one, please. Okay, you get your fruit and vegetables home, and some of them are a little fussy, right? We want to be able to eat everything that we buy, so we need to handle our foods carefully. Over here on the side are the foods that are harvested, ready to eat. So you bring them home and they like a cool, dry, airy, dimly lit space. If you don't have that, if you live in a little apartment like I do, maybe you are not the person who can buy the 10-pound bag of potatoes. You buy just what you can use in the amount of time that you can eat it. There needs to be some care in how much you purchase. Separate your potatoes and onions. This may sound a little bit like trivia, but you know that charming basket of potatoes and onions you may have on the counter? Not a good idea, because potatoes and onions emit gases that help one another deteriorate quickly. So you want to separate those two. And then food safety, once you cut into any of these foods, you want to keep them in the refrigerator. Now on the other side, these are foods that are picked before they're completely ripe, and they ripen at room temperature. They like sunshine, and you can actually put them in the refrigerator after they ripen to hold them for eating for a couple more days. Yeah, even the bananas, you can put the bananas in the refrigerator. The skins will turn dark, but the fruit inside is just fine. Next one, please. If you buy all of your food now, maybe consider growing some of it. Really, is there a better tasting tomato than the one you just picked from your balcony or your yard? If you have a small space, not to worry, there are so many of these beautiful space-saving ways to grow plants. Or you can have a mess like we've got on my balcony there. Either way, either one works. There's a very tiny little garden here of herbs that is appropriate for a countertop. I actually have one of these. And you know what? I no longer waste the rest of the bunch of mint, the rest of the bunch of parsley, the rest of the basil. Everything is fresh, ready to pick, and no waste at all. Gardening simply brings people together. Community gardens where everyone works together, gardens at schools where children learn where their food comes from. My daughter still talks about how we picked raspberries last summer and how it took a long time to fill her basket. All of these are very sustainable. There is no transportation involved. There is no packaging involved. Next one, please. We even garden at USC. We've got some new and wonderful ways to get our hands dirty, to play in the dirt here at work even. We have a student group that has been gardening for years. They are the SC Gardeners, and they have a lovely little garden right behind the Parkside Arts and Humanity Residence Hall. They welcome us to come and spend time back there. They welcome us to volunteer and help, maybe especially in the summer when there aren't as many students around. And they welcome us to bring anything what they need to contribute to their compost, to bring our fruit and vegetable scraps, our crunched up eggshells. They have compost bins. You can go and contribute to their beautiful garden that way. The occupational therapy department is developing another garden. This one is just off campus. It's called the Peace Garden. It's going to bring in our neighbors to help work, to learn about gardening, and to spend time together. If you would like to hear about gardening opportunities here at USC, there are some opportunities coming up. April 26th, there is a presentation by OT and SC gardeners about the gardens that they have. But what's also very important here is this feedback form. If you can complete that and give your ideas about gardening at USC, what you would like to see, how you would like to volunteer, how you would like to help. So there are some opportunities for that. The next slide is Michelle's.
Thank you, Patrice. Great job. I learned a lot. Okay, so how do I reduce my food waste? Food waste, huge issue. Okay, so sell-by dates. These dates are so important because, you know, if we know and understand them, maybe we wouldn't toss so much stuff out of the fridge or out of the cupboard. So best if used by. So this is not a safety. This is just when the food can be eaten after this date. So for instance, you know, I'll sometimes, you know, my milk will have a sell date and it will last a week after that. Um, and so, and I just check it every day to make sure it's still alive. And what that does is that if I tossed it on the day that it said it's best used by, I would have tossed it and there would have been half a gallon left. But if I wait a week and it lasts a week and it's safe and wonderful and tastes great, then I've used it all up. So that lowers my food waste. And it's often found in canned fruits and vegetables. I think of my milk. That's the first thing that I come to. Sell by date. Sell by date is when the grocery store is allowed to sell food. After that, it can't sell it anymore. But you know, you might go to those bins, you know, past sell dates, or you know, at the end of the day, a lot of like food stores will give away food, bagels or you know, muffins or stuff. They just can't sell them anymore. Those are things that actually could be frozen. And when you freeze something, its nutritional value stops, and it's stopped in time. So you know, fresh fruit and vegetables are absolutely wonderful if you can afford them and if you can eat them in the first couple days, because they digress as time passes, their nutritional value decreases. So frozen vegetables, if the first ingredient is that vegetable, those are wonderful because that nutritional value stays forever. So there's nothing wrong with frozen vegetables. And in some parts of our country and in some parts of our city, it's more affordable. So nothing wrong with that. So just be aware. Use by refers to the peak date, you know, when my food could taste the absolute best. But I might not know 3 days from my use by date, my food might taste great. It's not a safety date. It's not going to hurt me if I eat it. So it's just about learning what foods, you know, those dates, and knowing how to read them and understand them, because we might be discarding food that is still very much edible. And by doing so, you know, and being more mindful of our choices, we can reduce our food waste, which is a great thing to do, considering what happens is if our food gets into our landfills in an anaerobic environment with lack of oxygen, releasing methane, increasing our global gases, raising our temperatures. So it's a really easy, simple way, if you choose, to participate in protecting our planet. Next slide, please. So one of the ways that you can make small changes, you know, and if everyone makes a small change, we can make big changes, is by trying a plant-based meal. Now, this doesn't mean you have to go vegan and wear, you know, shoes made out of grass. What it means is that you could do a meatless Monday. You could prioritize plants. Maybe the center of your meal is not that burger. Maybe it's a black bean burger. Maybe it's that beautiful salad with a bunch of beans and nuts and seeds. Maybe you're using meat alternatives. You know, right now there's some amazing stuff: Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat, all kinds of stuff. Being plant-based is not vegan. I want to be really clear about that. It means just making choices. It's like not every meal has to be centered around meat or chicken. It could also be beans, amazing, wonderful, inexpensive, easy, storable, lasts forever. Maybe you do a meatless Monday. You know, maybe you decide every Monday we're going to have a non-meat meal. You know, the healthy plate that we recommend suggests reducing your red meat intake. Animal-based products emit 2 times the emissions compared to plant-based products. So that's our animals on the farms, you know, the methane gas. And so if we start moving to more plant-based options, maybe once a day or once a week, we're all contributing to that. And also, you know, the rise of alternative milk products is reducing the, you know, the farming in terms of cow's milk. So there's all kind of options that can provide very nutrient-rich foods without, you know, using and exploiting our resources that are dwindling. And, you know, reducing our beef production also can help the environment in terms of the transportation of livestock and all the resources that they use in terms of food and water and land and energy. So, every step you take, every choice you make can have a huge impact on the environment and our food choices and our sustainability. Next slide, please.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Sometimes we like to have a system, a way of looking at our food, a way of planning. And when it comes to sustainability, the Mediterranean diet can help us do this. I know that in some of the other webinars, we have talked about this a great deal. So you've got some resources on how to plan Mediterranean meals and from some of the other talks. What I would like to emphasize here is this picture, the fish on this picture that we're going to talk about in a moment. And this website here, Old Ways, they are a wonderful resource for all things Mediterranean diet. If you want to learn about how to do this in your daily life, how to help to prevent heart disease and stroke by the way that you eat, this is a very good resource, a good place to learn. Next one. So here is something that is new at USC. There is a free vegan meal offered by the Office of Religious and Spiritual Life in conjunction with the LA Vegan Organization. I was there yesterday, very warm, very friendly environment, a nice bowl of pasta. Everybody is invited, students, staff, faculty. All you need to do is register on their website. And if you would like to read a great deal of information about who runs this and how it has come to us, there is a great article archived in the Daily Trojan. Next one, please. Okay, so here's the fish that we were encouraged to eat in the Mediterranean diet. Fish and seafood, generally very good choices for our health. But when it comes to the environment, is it really just any fish? Perhaps not. Perhaps there are better. And this group, Seafood Watch, truly is the global leader in recommendations for fish and seafood that are most sustainable. Fish and seafood that are caught and farmed responsibly. They have consumer guides on their website that rates one seafood at a time by the best choices, the good alternatives, and the types to avoid. This changes now and then, so it's important to look this up for as conditions change. You can find a guide for any area of the United States, plus a special guide for sushi. So I recommend taking a look at this. Next slide, please. Okay, I frequently talk with students about having more plant-based meals, and some are used to meat, and they wonder, if they're going to make this change, if they're going to be able to enjoy this food. The thing that gets missed most often is this umami, this fifth taste. It's the deeply flavored, very complex flavors. So what I've put together here are foods, plant-based foods that have very rich, complex, delicious flavors. They can be layered one on top of another. They can be used separately. And down here, dark chocolate, yes, this starts at mole, but there is so much more that you can do to bring this richness to your food. I'm happy exploring with that. Next slide, please. Okay, we all are starting wherever we are today. For some people, that means recycling more. For some, that means moving on to reusing things. See, here's somebody who made himself a little drum set out of a bunch of oatmeal containers. And sometimes we are ready to move on to Senate Bill 1383, which is going to make an enormous impact in all of our lives. I know Michelle wants to give us a little bit more detail on that.
So this is a Senate bill that was passed in the beginning of January, and it's basically promoting, encouraging using our green waste bins for composting. it doesn't go into any kind of penalties for about couple years, so you're not going to get in trouble. But it's encouraging using your your food scraps and leftovers into the compostable bins, those green bins that we look at and we never use. And it's a great way to take steps to decrease our carbon footprint, because the goal is that by 2025, 75% of our organics becomes compost, which is what we use in our gardening. And also the goal is to reduce our landfill waste by 75%, because that just in of itself will reduce our global gas emissions. And we know that the food, and right now, 33% of our landfill is of food and food waste. And that is equivalent to 320,000 jumbo jets of food directly going into our landfills. So we can all make a difference. So compost, do what you got to do. Be a part of the solution. Next slide.
Okay, here are some little things that you can do to be part of the solution. Here's one we will all be doing at USC starting July 1st. The whole campus will be eliminating sales of single-use plastic beverages. So we will be carrying these and we will be much better for it. Anytime that you can cook yourself at home rather than having something delivered, something takeout in a container is a good thing. Anytime you can pack your own lunch in a container that you can reuse is a good thing. Anytime that you can make something at home, like this lovely whole grain, as opposed to this highly processed food in a package, is a good thing. Here we're going from a package to, oh my goodness, water from the tap. Wow, maybe filtered if that's your choice. And just a few other little ideas here. Next slide.
All right, so this week has been Earth Week, and it's to celebrate Earth and to take part in sustainability activities and events. So every step we take, we can make a difference. USC has a sustainability office, great ideas, wonderful information. So I highly recommend if you check that link. You can also get activities and things that you can do that are going on in the community. USC is committed to become carbon neutral by 2025. And what that means is that we provide no gas emissions. So that means solar panels, that means constructing and rebuilding buildings, making buildings more sustainable. And one of the things that goes into effect, which is really exciting for me, is as of July 1st, we will have no more single-use plastic bottles on campus. So things will be glass, encouraging reusable bottles, and using the hydration stations throughout campus, and just, doing your part and, making the world a better place for all the crew. Next slide, please. These are some resources. You can click on these links, but I also put a list together I will put a list together of all these things and share it with everybody, and for more information about ways to decrease your carbon footprint, composting, seafood wash, as well as any kind of seasonal produce, and the best way to freeze and store your vegetables and fruit. Next slide.
Great. Well, thank you, Michelle and Patrice. Really, really informative presentation. Thank you so much. We have about 5 minutes for questions. So if you have any, feel free to put them in the Q&A in the chat, and I'll go ahead and start off. We have a couple of questions already that have come in. One is about histamines. Leftovers are full of histamines. Are there any recommendations on how to avoid leftovers with histamines, and why are some foods developing histamines faster than others? Any thoughts on that, Michelle or Patrice?
Well, if histamines are usually from fermented foods, and they cause issues, but only if you have a histamine intolerance, or you have an immune system disturbance. I don't, I think about 1% of the population has like a histamine intolerance, um, from my research. So I don't, I don't see that as a problem for just some leftovers. Leftovers can last couple of days, but unless you've got a histamine intolerance and it actually triggers an immune response, such as like diarrhea, shortness of breath, headache, skin irritation, I, you know, I don't see, Patrice and I believe in all foods fit, moderation, balance, and variety. So, if that's a concern, you can always reach out to us and we can talk more about it, if you want to have some more information. But I think unless you have a histamine intolerance, I don't think it's a real issue. But if you are concerned, I would actually recommend talking to your primary care physician about it.
Great, thank you, Michelle. Question about alternatives for milk. Do you have any suggestions on what's best for the environment and best for our health, like soy, oat, coconut, or whatever alternatives for milk?
Great question. Patrice, you want to handle it or you want me to handle
Go right ahead.
it? Okay, so okay, so the biggest thing is protein content. So protein content, environmental impact. So almonds take an incredible amount of water to grow. They are not a sustainable product. And if you look at your almond, protein content's about 1 gram. So there's not a lot there. Coconut milk has a lot of saturated fat. So not a fan of that because saturated fat gets converted to cholesterol in the body. And so I'm not a big fan of that. I'm more a fan of, things like, oat milk or soy milk. Soy milk is a wonderful, complete protein. It's sustainable. And it is, unless you're a very young person, it's not a health issue. But, it's really about what am I getting for what am I drinking, So, a lot of the alternative milks, oat milk, particular flaxseed milk. Flaxseed milk is a great milk. It's got a lot of protein. It's also got really good omega-3 fatty acids. So,
so would you say oat milk is better than almond milk?
Anything is better than almond milk.
Okay, great. Moving on to the next one. This person has a hard time with a picky spouse and child who sometimes decides not to eat what they have planned, or they want to eat something else like cereal. So this person is always over or underestimating how much food to prepare. And sometimes they end up tired and they don't want to chop or, take the time to prepare. Any tips on that when planning is hard in that situation?
I will give that to Patrice.
I think that there was a really wonderful answer to that in the chat. I'll just read a little bit of it to you. My husband was totally opposed to plant-based diets, so when I cooked that way for myself, I made it easy and acceptable for him to have just have some as a side dish along with his meat. I didn't make him eat an entire meal that was plant-based. He liked the different dishes enough and was willing to try more voluntarily. This is a wonderful approach. Make it for yourself, make a little extra, take it for lunch the next day if the rest of the family doesn't want to participate. But when you make these dishes and they're fresh and they're delicious and they smell good and they look good, the rest of the family might want to try some. If you want to do this as a meal prep, so that what you're cooking at every evening, it really is the family meal, but you're bringing out your roasted asparagus and what your miso soup and other things like that. I think making what you need for you and a little bit more that you'll eat if they don't. That I think this is a fantastic approach. The other approach is a little stronger, and that is the old-fashioned approach that the parents pick the food and put it on the table, and a child decides if and how much of it they're going to eat. I think that's a little tougher. That's a little tougher approach. I don't actually use that one exclusively in my home. We use more of a no thank you helping, a just a taste helping. And that means that my husband will also have just a taste to set a good example.
Great. Thank you, Patrice. We're out of time and I want to be mindful of people's time. So there's about 3 questions that we didn't get to. We'll make sure we get them answered in the follow-up email. And just a brief preview for next week, our final session is Nutrition for Health and Longevity, presented by Frida Hovik, Joy Liu, and Susan Kim. So we hope you can join us for that. And then just promoted today is our Live Well, Stress Less Challenge during May. It's a 31-day challenge to help support you to encourage health and well-being promoting practices in the areas of stress management, burnout, work-life balance, and workplace relationships. So the link is in the chat for those of you who want to sign up, and we encourage you all to participate. Those collecting points for Vitality, you'll receive an email at the end of the series to confirm your points towards your health assessment. And finally, we will be sending out the presentation, all the links, the presenter's contact information, and questions that we could not answer live today to all of you. And with that, we will go to our raffle. We are raffling off 2 reusable storage bags. We'll contact the lucky winners to make sure you receive your prize.
It's so cute.
That is amazing.
jdub@usc.edu. And our second and last winner is ramira@usc.edu. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a healthy day, and thanks for joining. See you next week.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.